Yeah, and then I got into my, so I stopped it because it was at the exact same time. Right. But yeah, I did that. Yeah, for sure. Is, what's his name? Mayan? Yeah. Not Mayan, what's his name?
Happy birthday.
Maybe it is Mayan. Yeah. Is he still spearheading it?
So he just barely...
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe the special one.
So I think he just barely left.
Thank you.
So he stuck with it for a long time.
There's no cost.
I know.
Okay. 50 cents?
So I think he kind of...
I know, it's not sounding right to me.
That's funny. How big's your bean?
Welcome, everybody. Did I scare you? What are you jumping for? Just a little bit?
Always.
You love it?
Always.
Am I a little noisy?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it in the morning when I can hear you over the thunder.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because when I talk in church, all the elderly turn down their... and you just see this wave across the congregation. But anyway, welcome. I want to get started. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited. We have Louie today. That's going to be teach us communication skills today. So, but before we get into that, I actually wanted to bring up, is it Lane?
Yes.
Lane is actually a drone photographer. So anytime you guys have got a property that you want some great photos of, I'm going to have him come up. Lane, why don't you come up and kind of introduce your business and tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. And first of all, just imagine for a moment the most beautiful picture you've ever seen. Well, I can see one right now. I mean, I think there's a reason that CEOs of companies are on the top 4. There's just a different perspective from the sky, right? So my name is Lane Dockstader with Flying Eagles AV. I own a drone photography and videography business. So if you are wanting that spectacular photo from the sky, just a little bit different perspective, especially on those mid to high range homes, I'd be happy to help with that. And we also do the internal shots as well. So if you know someone that wants the internal shots, kind of make the colors pop with that high dynamic range photos, we can do that too. I am a member of a group called the Sky Eye Network. They're based out of Houston, Texas. The leader of our group is on the board of directors for NASA.
Wow.
And they're actually planning, Amazon's talking about doing deliveries in the future with drones, and so they're kind of planning, okay, where are the airplanes going to go and where are the drones going to go so we don't collide. That would be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But I'll pass out these. I'll make this quick. Basically, I'll give you just some ideas of things that you can do as far as those high-end photos. Beautiful sky this morning. I took some pictures this morning. Beautiful blue sky. But if needed, we can always Photoshop it too and make it look like a beautiful sky, even if it's kind of a grayish sky day. So we can do that as well.
So quickly, your cost on your service?
If it's local, right close here, we start at $99. So
wow.
If you're right within a couple miles here or something, we can just do a quick $99 flyover, and then it goes into the thousands depending on what you're needing. If you want a spectacular video or things like that.
Night shots, all those kind of things.
All those kind of things. But quick shot, $99. That's one quick.
Say it's
Salt Lake area.
$400,000.
Yeah, we can do one quick. Basically, we fly up, take a quick picture, and that's yours for $99 right here local to Salt Lake.
I'm talking to do interior shots and that, just do basic.
Okay, basic interior and exterior, we're talking $199 if we're adding everything together, and then up from there.
But you include the drone shot in that.
Drone shot as well, right? That's
so
exterior and interior. I'm sorry?
Without a drone shot.
Oh, without a drone shot.
Because your drone shot's $100.
Right. If it's all the internals, we shoot it right around $129 local.
So get with him after the meeting and you can discuss pricing with him. Lane, thanks for coming and sharing your business with us. We appreciate that.
I just want to
Citywide,
ask if you have the FAA.
want to come up?
107 license, yes.
Okay.
You guys, you driven citywide today?
Okay.
No, I'm just here to learn. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I was told Citywide was gonna come up and give us a mortgage tip. Interest rates are still doing pretty good. I remember selling real estate in double digits. Who was here when we were doing sales in double digits? You remember those days, don't you, Louis?
Nope.
No? Am I the only one in the room? Yeah,
Only
Rebecca?
Rick.
Yeah. Well, that ages me, right? That's horrible.
We're the same age.
Yeah, so good. Well, today I'm really excited. Louis is a good friend. Not only that, great title company. These guys leverage with us in such an amazing way. We appreciate you and all that your team does for us. So why don't we just turn the time over to you?
Thank you.
Thanks, Louis.
Does everybody not have this? First off? Okay. My good friend Kenny from years ago one day said to me, if you pay close enough attention to life, it will teach you everything you need to know. And while I think at the time when he said it, I thought he was crazy. Like, I had no idea what he was saying. I didn't even think he understood what he even said. We were just out of college, and I had this experience actually with Rick about a year and a half ago. I was sharing with Rick an experience that I had, and Rick, and I think Dave at the time said, how did you know how to handle that experience? And I just said, because I'm just awesome. Like, that's how I know. I'm like, I'm just awesome like that. And then that night I went home and I was looking at my bookshelf and I noticed I had 3 copies of the same book. And it was what you have in front of you. It's a book called Crucial Conversations. And I had 3 copies of it because when this book was initially written, my good friend was the master trainer for the book. And they were doing beta testing for the content. And he asked me to go all 3 times. And I paid attention. And it taught me something that I didn't realize was just part of who I am. So I actually went back. Do you remember I went back?
I remember the story.
I lied to you. I'm not as good as I thought I was. I went to this training 3 times. And he's like, okay. So I want to tell you the story that I share with them that honestly, when it happened, when I got done with what happened, I thought it was extraordinary. Here's what happened. I was sitting in my office one day, and Jamie, who's our funder in our office, comes to me and says, this guy from a certain lender in the Valley is over all of funding, and he just said he's talking to the owner and he will not allow Vanguard Title to fund another deal. Ever. And we close about 100 deals a month through this lender because of real estate agent referrals or whatever, you know. And so, and when she said that, Sue, our marketing director, was sitting in my office with me when she said that. She kind of hit me because it was like, that's how my morning started. And just to give you an idea, just 100 deals, and every transaction for us roughly is about, just a conservative number would be $1,000 of revenue. So 100 times 1,000 is 100,000, and then times 12 is 1.2 million in revenue a year. So I only share that with you because I want you to know what was on the line. And so when something like that is on the line, you panic a little bit because you think, whatever happened just cost me this in revenue. So Sue was sitting there, and you know, and if you're in sales, right? Marketers in sales, and I could tell that she was just thinking, how much business am I going to lose? Who am I going to have to talk to? All this stuff. And I told Jamie, I said, and I'm just going to make his name up. Just say his name was David, because I'm not going to tell you who it was. But I said, just tell David I'll call him back in 10 minutes. And Jamie's like, he is so mad right now. And I said, I know. Just tell him I'll call him back in 10 minutes. I got to finish this conversation with Sue, and I'll call him back in 10 minutes. And Jamie, you know, she said something and said, like, I hate delivering your messages. This guy is so mad. And she's like, I hate you for making me do this. And I said, I don't care. Anyway, so she left, and then soon I continued to talk, and I'm just telling you legitimately what happened. Soon I continued to talk. And as I was talking to Sue about what we were discussing prior to Jamie coming in, I was thinking, man, I feel pretty calm about this. I should be freaking out of my mind, but like I feel pretty good. Like I'm not as bad as I can't believe I'm continuing this conversation. And Sue said, can we stop talking about what we're talking about and can we start talking about what we should be talking about? And I said, oh, well, I'm going to solve that in a second. Let's just finish this up. And she will never admit this, but she's like, I can't stay here when you make this phone call because I'm too nervous to be in the room when this happens. And she left. And so what I learned from that is even your best friends lead you in your worst. Doesn't matter how much they tell you they love you,
awesome.
they do not. So, and she will deny that she said that, but that is what she said. Anyway, so I want to tell you what's happening in that moment. In that moment, a crucial conversation, there's a triad of things that's happening, and a crucial conversation is anything where there's an opposing opinion, high emotion, or high stakes. And so I'm just going to abbreviate. So opposing opinion, high emotion, and high stakes. Any conversation where any one of those elements are involved, you are experiencing a crucial conversation. So in any crucial conversation, the first thing that always happens, and now you can tell if you're in one or not because this does not happen. So you might say, well, this is a crucial conversation, but it doesn't have to be. But typically, here's what happens. You go into fight or flight mode in a crucial conversation because this is so important. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So the problem with that is in fight or flight mode, if this is you and you're that skinny, you'd be happy.
That wouldn't be me.
If this is you, what happens is all of the blood that's in your brain goes to your extremities. And then your brain is at its minimal operating capacity.
Wow. Because
you're just there to fight or run, and all of the blood has to go to your muscle so you can get the hell out of there or say things that you need to say to defend yourself. And that's what's happening. And that's why you say, I was shaking when he said it, and I was doing this, because all the blood is gone.
Wow.
You're about to go into a fight, and you're like, I'm doing this.
That's not what you want.
It's not what you want to do, because what happens is when your blood leaves your brain, then you go into like caveman mode, and you just say stuff that you don't really mean. And then if you're like me, your wife says, I know you meant it when you said it, because you were mad. And I'm like, no. I'm just like losing my freaking mind. And I'm like, no. Because we all say this, right? I didn't really mean that. Right? And don't you mean it? I didn't really mean that. I just said it. And all you were trying to do is to get to safety.
Right.
So when safety leaves a conversation, when it leaves a conversation, you go into that mode because it's that. Or you could say because it's a crucial conversation, safety a lot of times leaves. You go into fight or flight mode, and then you say stuff you wish you never said. Now, everything I'm sharing with you, some of the things I'm sharing with you today is not in the book. It's just my own interpretation of the book.
Everything he said so far.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
So that's why I said not everything. So anyway, most of it. So let me tell you what happens in the moment. So I'm going to go back to my story. Sue leaves, and now I'm mad at her. I go into fight or flight mode. And then she leaves, and then when you go into this mode, what happens in a crucial conversation, you create a story. Because the story has to fill in the gaps. Because you can't explain it, because the other person holds the key to the gaps. And without knowing what they know, you have to complete the circle. So it's kind of like you have this thought of what's happening, and you have that much of it, and then the other person has this, And because you don't have that, because there's no safety and you can't express yourself in a way to have them feel safe, because they've gone into fight or flight mode too, because just like, you know, if you're nervous and the dog's growling and the dog's growling because you're not, you know, you're like, I'm not mad, I'm not this, it's because the dog senses it. The other person's sensing you too, so they're in that mode. And so because you can't complete this gap, you just create your own story, and this is what your story is. So you just make something up. So in my mind, I'm sitting there at the desk and I'm thinking, okay, why would a guy just call me up and say, we're never going to do this again, and he says it to the wrong person. You know, he just says it to some person that works for me, and he's making this up in his head. I'm like, there's got to be something going on. And for me, without having talked to the guy, my story was, I kid you not, my story was we made a $50,000 mistake, or there was a $50,000 loss of some sort, of earnest money, whatever it was, and that's why anybody would ever say that, because somebody lost $50,000. Doesn't even make sense, right? I mean, kind of does. It made sense to me at the time. So now I'm processing this. I'm like, $50,000. And I'm like, well, $50,000 compared to this is nothing, right? And I'm like, okay, if it's a $50,000 mistake, I'm just going to write the check. I'm not even going to argue it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to freaking write the check. That's all I'm going to do. I had to solve my story, because if I can't solve my story, I can't approach it in a way that can create safety for the other person. So you got to solve the story
first before you can.
Yeah, and then here's the deal: if you can't do it,
That's smart.
if you can't do it, then you can never approach it. And this is what the book won't tell you. You got to solve your story. You got to solve it in your head. Okay. Now the book says another way, but I'm just telling you the shortcut to what the book says is just solving it in your head. It's $50,000. I'm just going to pay it. He wants me to say I'm sorry. I'm just going to say I'm sorry. He wants me to do this. I'm just going to do that. He wants this. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I'm just going to do it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it. Because without being compliant to whatever the solution is to your story, you'll never have the integrity to have the conversation. If you don't have the integrity to have the conversation, he can't or she can't feel safety. And if they can't feel safety, you're stuck in a pattern of crucial conversations and ain't nothing happening, and you just go back to ground zero. And you're back to where you started. So I'm sitting there, and let me finish, I'll tell you. So I'm sitting there, and I just say, I'm paying $50,000. I don't care. That's the right thing to do. In fact, if we made the mistake, I'm just going to pay it right now. I'm like, I'm not even going to talk to my business partners. I'm just cutting the check. Because if I talk to them, they may want, no, I don't care. I'm just cutting the check without, and then I'll tell them after. I'm like, because then I'll be happy. So in my head, I'm like, I just have to solve the story. So I solved the story, and then because I solved the story, what the author says is you then have to, and he says, you have to start with your heart. Because if you can't start with your heart and be authentic in the conversation is never going to happen, even if you've solved the problem. So then I just thought, this guy must be scared. Nobody says that without being scared. He's afraid. Something's happening. What would be happening to him? I just make up a list in my head. He's probably getting yelled at. And he's probably afraid because he thinks I'm not willing to pay the $50,000. And I want him to know I'm willing to do it. So in my head, I just make this list of why he's scared. And I thought, and he's probably also scared because he probably thinks I'm not going to listen to him and I'm going to defend it. And he probably thinks I'm going to try to find out where he was wrong as opposed to where I was wrong. And he probably thinks all of these things. I'm like, he's totally wrong. I totally can solve his concern. So here's what happens. I make the call. And I am a little, like, I'm dialing the number on my landline. I'm like, 8. Oh. And so I make the call, and he picks up. And again, let's just say his name's David. And he picks up the phone, and I said, hey, David, Louis, Vanguard Title, how are you? And he goes, not good. And then I heard him do this. Like he breathed in. I'm like, oh boy.
Here comes.
But, so what happens is, when you're in fight or flight mode, you go into, right, what they call, right, if this is your you go into this tunnel vision, right? All you see is just this. And you're like, I didn't even know what happened. All I was doing was punching the bear or whatever. You know, I had no idea. I just did it. And so because I still was in my coming down off that fight or flight mode in that tunnel vision, it's why I heard his breath, because I don't hear that. And so when I heard his breath, I thought, I'm not here yet. I have to do it now. And I said, David, before you say anything, it's super important that you understand a couple things in order for us to navigate this conversation like it needs to be done. Will you take just a minute and let me tell you some things that I think you should know so that we can actually solve everything here today? Okay. And I said, first, whatever you say, I'm not going to defend it. Whatever you said we did wrong, I'm not defending it. I'm going to accept whatever you say as the truth because I know you wouldn't make stuff up. 2, I haven't spoken to anybody from my company. All I know is you're pissed. And we can't do any more deals with you. That's all I know. So I said, and I intentionally didn't talk to anybody because I wanted to come into this conversation unbiased. Because I know whoever is on the other end of this transaction or whatever happened, they're probably going to be biased because they're scared. I don't talk to anybody. I want you to know that whatever you say, I'm going to use as training for my people in the future. And so because I'm going to do that, I have a pen and paper in front of me and I'm going to be taking notes. And if I ask you to stop or to pause for a second, I'm not trying to interject or defend or anything because I already told you I'm not doing that. I said it's because I'm taking notes and I'm clarifying what you said because I know whatever you say is going to change how I approach my training with my people. I have a pen and paper in front of me. I'm listening. Go. And that's how the conversation started. And literally, I want you to hear this out. For 5 seconds, he did not respond. He did not. Go.
Oh gosh.
And after 5 seconds, I looked over at the phone. I'm like, did he hang up? This is great. I go away, like, nope. And I said, David? He goes, I don't even know what to say. I have never in my life, in 18 years of being in this industry, I've never in my life been treated like this. I'm shocked.
Wow.
In fact, and I kid you not, almost word for word, he said, in fact, after what you said, I'm pretty sure the source of what happened is from my funder. It's probably our fault. In fact, the more that I think about it and who the funder is, it probably is our fault. And I'm sorry I've called you. The first 3 minutes of the conversation. And I'm like, no. I didn't hang up on him. And I just said, and he goes, in fact, he goes, I'm embarrassed that I've called you. I'm sorry. And what I said, I'm sorry. And I said, David, you called for a reason. I don't even know what we're talking about yet. I need you. I said, I know you're sorry, and I know you think it's your fault. I said, it doesn't matter to me. You called, and there's still an issue. I want to solve all of this. So can you, I said, would you please just tell me what happened? And he goes, honestly, I don't want to tell you what happened, because as I'm telling myself the story that I'm going to tell you what happened, I can see that it's probably our fault. I don't want to tell you. I'll just know that I'll solve it. Just know I'll get it solved. I'm like, no. I said, so just tell me, would you? And he goes, I literally begged him, and he goes, okay, I'll tell you. And then he told me what happened. And as he told me what happened, he goes, you know what, I realized as I'm telling you this, your escrow officer was out of the office for 2 days, and they probably didn't. Yeah, oh my gosh, okay, now I see what happened. And as he's telling me the story, he's understanding what really happened. I kid you not, true story. And then he says, after he tells me what happens, he goes, okay, this is great. Thank you. Thank you. And I said, hey, David, question for you. Your funder that did this, is this a pattern that you now notice that she has? And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, it is a pattern. He goes, how did you know? I said, well, typically when there's an issue, then maybe it's a one-off, but most likely there's a pattern of how people work. And I was just curious. He goes, yeah. And I said, question for you, what would happen if I had a very similar conversation with her as I did with you? What would happen? Literally, he didn't say a word, just nothing. And he goes, why would you do that? I said, well, I just want to help you. This was awful. I said, I've had employees just like what you're talking about. And I said, and I've kind of learned to navigate these situations to help them. I said, do you want me to call her? He goes, oh my gosh, if you did, that would be awesome. She would think I'm amazing. And I said, okay, well, I'll call her. So I kid you not, I called her, same exact result. Within 3 minutes, she goes, I'm so sorry. I know what happened now. Your escrow officer was on vacation the last 2 days. She knew nothing about this. Her assistant was probably overwhelmed, and because she was overwhelmed, she just loaded all the stuff, and she goes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Will you just tell her that I'm sorry, and I'm actually embarrassed to call your escrow officer now. But I will. Okay, and she was just like that, and I said no, and then actually at the end of the conversation before I hung up, she goes, can I help you? And I'm like, how would you help me? And she's like, I'm going to tell you all the things that our company needs, like for fundings and stuff, so that your escrow officers just totally nail it every time. And because sometimes we do quirky little stuff, and what if I gave you all these little tips? And I'm like, that would be great. And she listed me all those things. I hung up, and I'm like, that is unbelievable. So I called the guy back originally, David, and I said, David, talk to Julie or whatever, and had this happen. He goes, oh my gosh, she's going to freaking love me, and she is a pain in the rear sometimes. Thank you so much. This will give me good behavior for a while. He's just like, he goes like, thank you, and he hung up. True story. Remember I told you this?
Yep.
Just like that at lunch. Yep. And Rick goes, how did you know that? And that's when I said, I'm just awesome. So today I want to tell you is that starting with your heart is getting to the core of what you really want in any situation. And what you really want in any situation isn't to resolve it. You may want to resolve it, but what you really want is a relationship with that person. Because people are more important than problems every time. So, and that the book will not tell you. People are so much important in getting, when you can understand that people are more important than the problem every time, it's easy to start with the heart, because what you're focused on is the person and not the problem. And because you're not focused on the person, the problem never gets resolved because they're contributing to the problem. And once you solve the person, you solve the problem every time. It gets solved. And problems are only created because there's people. Otherwise, it's just this harmonious, it's nature. It would be amazing. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just really curious because I've heard this story several times now, and I keep learning more things.
Am I exaggerating it now?
No. For me, I keep getting little bits of great emotional information for myself and how to handle my own life. Because I'm mainly in the fight or flight realm, and I don't like being there.
Yeah.
So how did you emotionally get yourself to the point to where in every crucial conversation you're calming yourself down to a point to where you can, just take that deep breath and, walk us through that process of what got you there. How did you consciously make that?
Yeah.
Because there's so many of us that in a deal, the emotion is high and it's falling apart, and you're trying to keep something together. Help walk us through that.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
But
I had a real estate agent one time. His name's Brian Hurley, and he said to me one time, and I can't remember. I'm making this number up, but he said something to me, something like this: 99.3% of all people are really good. They're really good people that will help you in everything. He's like, you have to believe this. And I remember he told me this years ago, it was actually 2012 that he told me this. And one day, I finally just come to a resolution, like, that's true. Everybody's good. Everybody is good. And the problem that you can't get to it is because you don't believe everybody's good, because you look at where they're corrupted, and we're all corrupted at some level in our understanding. And so you take that corruption and you expand it, because what you focus on grows. And because you're focused on the person's corruption, then that grows, and you think that person is that corrupt, but they're really not. 99.3% of them, of that person is just really good. And I'll share with you this other story. My brother's a cop. Don't hold that against me, but he's a cop. Anyway, he was a cop for Indianapolis PD, which is a pretty large police department, and then he got a job as the chief of police of Bainbridge Island, which is just off of Seattle. And just about a year ago, I was talking to him. He says, okay, I had this experience, and you have to help me understand this experience. He goes, honestly, I don't know what happened. And he said, one day I was at Walmart. He goes, this is what he said. I had this weird experience. I'm like, how did he say this? It was pretty funny. He goes, I had this really weird experience, and I want you to help me to understand it. Like, what happened? And he said, one night, I was at Walmart at 10:30. I said, oh, I know why this is weird now. Totally. I'm like, it's at Walmart, and it's 10:30 at night. Things get weird. I'm pretty sure that's why that's the issue. I'm just kind of joking with him. And he's like, he goes, I'm standing in line. He goes, I'm literally the second person in line. There's one cashier. I'm like, okay, that's normal, nothing weird about that. And he said, there's probably 15 people in line. Now, he's in plain clothes. He's the chief of police. And he's standing in line, and he says this guy, this muscle-bound guy, that's just super strong in a tank top, who had tattoos on his leg, up and down his arm, just looked like a super rough guy, is with his wife, he says, who was equally, you know, seems sketchy to me. He goes, as a cop, I'm like, this seems sketchy, what's happening? He goes, but they had this little 5-year-old kid, about 5-year-old kid with him. And he says he walks up to the line, and he just goes, and he starts yelling. He goes, now you have to know, Bainbridge Island is like Gilligan's Island. He's like, it's like super peaceful. It's like everything's just like Pleasantville. Nothing happens here. Nobody speeds. We don't even give out tickets. He's like, it's just peaceful, you know? And he says, so this guy that's rough looking, who's already kind of like stands out of the normal person on Bainbridge, walks up and just starts yelling and goes, what the F is happening? And he's just swearing. And he's like, where in the F are the people? How come nobody's helping us? What the F? And he's just over and over yelling. And he goes, somebody in line says, we need to call the cops. And he's like, please don't. I'm right here. I don't want to deal with this guy. I'm like, don't call the cops. I'm like, somebody just settle this down, you know? And he's like, I'm standing there just thinking, I didn't know what to do. He says, and all of a sudden, he goes, because my heart started pounding. He says, and I thought, this is going to have to be a takedown. He's like, I'm just running through my head all these scenarios. He says, and all of a sudden, I just got super calm. He says, everything just went quiet. And I said, he goes, and then I just walked up to the guy and said, sir? And he goes, what? He goes, if you're in that big a hurry, get in front of this place, take my stuff. He says, and that guy just goes, he was yelling, and he just goes, no thanks. He just said, no thanks. And he back down and picked up his little boy and said, hey buddy, it's going to be about 30 minutes before I can get you in bed. Picked him up and said, he's going to be okay.
Wow.
He goes, what happened? I've never seen that happen in my life. I'm like, I know, because you're a jerk. I'm like, and for the first time you were actually nice to someone. Holy hell. I'm like, you're learning. And he's like, what happened? And he goes, and I said, oh, what you did was, I'm like, you provided safety for this guy. I'm like, he was totally safe. I said he was scared because of his kid, and he wanted him in bed. And I said, you answered his question, and here's his question. Why in the F is no one helping me? I said, you helped him.
Wow.
I said, he didn't want it solved. He wanted to know that someone would help him.
Wow.
And you did it. You answered his primary question. He goes, oh man, what if I trained this to my police department? I'm like, wow, less altercations, less videos. I'm like, I think you might, you know, he's like, this is unbelievable to me. He's like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Question.
So this really hinges on, didn't make sense when you were saying you gotta solve your story before you ever find anything out. And you said the word compliant, which to me basically means that you're humble enough to
Yeah.
back out and find the answer. So I had a lot of questions about that because I could see where you were going with it.
Yeah.
And in this situation, instead of getting defensive, you started looking how to find safety for the guy.
Yeah.
But I felt like there were a lot of pieces missing when you said, you gotta know what your own story is. I'm like, wait a minute. So this is the direction you're going, but I feel like there's still pieces missing so that we can do this.
Yeah, totally.
Because
And
I've gone off in directions and created this story with,
Yeah.
when I have a client that acts so weird and just like cut the relationship up. And
Yeah.
The stuff that I believe, what really happened,
yeah, it's not.
is not good.
Yeah. So let me tell you this. So honestly, I did this training when I did it, whatever it was, a year ago. Heidi Castaigne came up to me and she says, I have a guy who I've done like 4 transactions with or whatever, and he wants me to price out his house, and he's asking me all of these pricing issues or questions, and she says, and he's comparing me now and shopping me. And I said, I can help
Yeah,
you.
after you've like
Yeah.
written 6 offers.
No,
and
no,
sold
let me
the
say this. She's done
investment
4
property.
transactions with this guy.
No, that's like.
Yeah, so I said, Heidi, I can tell you he's not safe, and I can tell you how to get him safe. I'm like, let's go to lunch, let's do it. And literally, well, I don't know, that's an independent story, but I'll tell you, you'll have to read the book. You'll have to
This is
understand,
huge.
I can't, so I will tell you this, what I'm gonna tell you is a 3-day training, 8 hours. I'm just giving you one bite. So, and I've taken that 3 times, and so that's why I talked to Heidi, and I said, Heidi, I promise I answered his question. I promise I did. I said, just tell me that I did it right when he says he's gonna do the next 2 deals with you, because he was selling 2 houses. I'm sorry, he was buying and selling, and he wasn't using her. I said, I promise I got you 2 deals. And she called me up, and she didn't call me up that day. I'm like, there's no way, I solved it. And a week later, she sent me a text. She says, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to tell you. Solved it, I got 2 deals because of what you said.
Wow.
Because we're selling,
This is
we're telling
so
ourselves a
huge.
story.
Is
So, go ahead.
to her prior question, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're saying that you have to solve your own story, it's that you have to pull your emotions out. You have to let
That's
your
right.
guard down
And
so
there's
that you can listen.
humility
That's what I'm saying.
and being
Yeah.
complacent
So-
in that.
That's right. So, like, if a dog, right? I have a fear of dogs. Like, well, it's getting a lot better, but yeah. So, dogs. If you brought a dog in this room, I just might leave right now. Just kidding. But anyway, but because I have a fear of dogs, they smell it.
Right.
And now they're angry, they're like,
And
I'm like,
that-
I'm not doing anything to that. And Yana says, wait, because you're afraid. I'm like, I'm afraid. Like, I'm backing up. He's like, put your hands down. I'm like, she's gonna freaking bite my hands. I'm like, I'm not doing that. But because I have that excitement, he sees it as fight or flight. And the dog says, he's fighting, bite him. I'm like, I promise when I do this, he's gonna bite me. Because I'm too afraid
Yeah.
to
and he can
deliver.
smell
I'm not
fear.
excited. He can smell it. We're the same way. We can feel it.
Just like that guy in the store,
Yeah.
no one would approach him, but you approached him. So you put your fear away.
So I'm going to help you on the story. So here, let me tell you this. So here's another story. I was telling my friend. So I have 2 friends that work at Vital Smarts, which does this Crucial Conversations. One is the master trainer, like he's the best one that they always send out. And then my second friend that works there is actually my neighbor, just like literally just down the street. So my house is here on the street. The street kind of curves down like this and comes to this street. His house is right here. So about a year and a half ago, this was my experience, and I think this will help. So you have to be open to knowing that your story is wrong. Your story is never true because you don't have all the information. So my wife has this superpower. In fact, like it's so good. It was amazing. And she can find the one thing I do wrong every day. kid you not. And it's like that.
It's
like
a
that.
superpower.
It is her freaking superpower. In fact, one day my son goes, Mom, you know what you're really super good at? And she goes, what? Making people feel guilty. I'm so good at it. It makes me do all my stuff. He was like, I want to learn how you do that. And I'm like, no, don't do that. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so my story honestly is I would come home or whatever and she would say, oh, by the way, you didn't do this. I'm like, okay. Like, and it would just set me off. It just triggered me, right, that she was so good at it. And in fact, my friend who lives here, I kind of told him one day, I said, my wife can find the one thing. Like, I never badmouth her anything, but she's just really good at it. I go, and oftentimes, I mean, she's right, I did it wrong. I'm guilty, but it was one out of 100 things I did today. And so, anyway, that.
Right.
Yeah, she's right. That's what pisses me.
No, out of 100 things you did right, she finds the one.
Yeah. So that's my story. Okay, so I want you to know. So I just want to, so one thing, I'm just saying this, right? Gary Keller says the one thing, right? This is the one, she's really good at that. Anyway, so this is my story, and it's often it triggers a passionate discussion. This is how we turn it. And so one day she went out to dinner with a bunch of her friends. Like she left like at 5:30. And anyway, so I was home with the kids and I just played with the kids all night. And we bought this little skateboard thing. It's called a One Wheel. It's an electronic thing, and we were riding it. We had just got it. It's literally one big wheel, and you stand on it, and it balances you, and you just go forward and you ride it. And it's kind of, it can be dangerous. And we have the guards and all that, the safety equipment. So we just have fun all night with the kids doing all of this. In fact, my neighbor, Ben, he's riding it too, and his kids. We're just taking turns up and down the street all night. And it's about 9 o'clock at night, I think. And I had just rode up and parked it right here, and Lou, my youngest, who at the time was about 10, he said, Dad, can I ride it home? I said, yeah, take it home because it's dark. And so I have the stuff on, and I'm like, yeah, just take it home. So he takes it and goes up home. I kid you not, like, Viv drove up right here, parked. Just as she parked, he gets right here, so she can't see him. So he's just out of sight, right? And I have on the helmet, elbow, knee, all this. And she goes, and my friend right here was standing, and Viv goes, hey, what are you guys doing? And I could tell she's happy. She had a good night. She's with her friends. And I said, oh, we're just riding the One Wheel. She goes, well, where is it? Who's on it? I said, Lou's on it. She goes, and why doesn't he have the safety equipment on? Are you out of your mind?
Oh,
and I'm
wow.
like, she goes, I gotta go. Boom, takes off. Or no, she goes, why doesn't he have the safety equipment on? Why are you wearing it? Why doesn't the kid have it on? And literally Ben goes, I'm out. And he walks into his house, and I'm like, 2 for 2. Like, your best friend. Like, and he goes, I'm out. And he leaves, and I'm like, I said, I don't know. And she drives away. She goes, how long ago did he leave? I'm like, just like, literally, like 3 seconds. Like, you just missed him. So, kid you not, I'm standing on the corner. He leaves, and I'm by myself with this on, and I'm pissed. I'm just like, no, like, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm not, like, I did everything freaking right. You went to dinner with all your friends. I'm like, all your friends. I worked hard. I got home. I did this all night, and you found the one freaking thing. And I thought, honestly, in my head, I'm like, she never believes me. I have ironclad proof.
You were.
This is the only thing I did all day. I'm like, and you found it. And so, I kid you not. So I stood there and I started taking off the gear. And I knew that was in my story because I was like, I can't believe she said this. And I just thought, and I literally thought, I thought, why would a good woman who I know loves me because I know I'm not perfect and we've been married over 20 years, why would she do it? If she does find the one thing, why would she do it? Like, why did she do this? And I literally was pondering that question as I started slowly walking up the hill because I'm like, And I thought this. And because I asked a different question, this is what I thought. Oh, she's a mom. Moms are designed to protect. Moms would like run right towards a bear if their kid was being attacked, and I would run away. They're not worth it. My kids are not worth it. I would run away. I'm like, she would die for that kid. I would not. And I'm like, and he didn't have the equipment that could possibly kill him. And she discovered it right away because that's her life's filter. She's not mad at me. She's not trying to find the thing wrong with me. She's just being a freaking mom. Literally in my mind, I'm like, holy crap, you gotta be kidding me. And so I opened the garage door and I thought, okay, I'm gonna test this. And I just paused for a second. I'm like, I'm gonna test this. What would a dad do if he knew that all she was doing was trying to protect as opposed to defending the one thing he did wrong? What would he do if he walked in? What would he do? And I thought he would say, did Lou make it home okay? I'm so worried about him. I never said that in my freaking life. I'm like, but I'm gonna say it. And I walked in, I'm like, and if she says, and then I'll know. And then I'll know, is she after the one thing I did wrong? Or is she really just that good at protecting? And I walked in, I'm emotional telling you this because it changed our marriage. And I walked in and I just said, hey, did Lou make it home okay? I was worried about him, that thing's dangerous. And I honestly turned away, I'm like, I just can't believe, I'm like, I gotta fake this, I'm not. And I just turned away, I'm like, and she goes, oh my gosh, yes. He's fine, the one wheel is over downstairs, and he's fine. I'm so glad, would you just make sure that he has that on the next time until he gets it down? And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like,
What just happened,
what
right?
just happened? Like,
Wow.
my story just got debunked at a very high level.
Wow.
Because you see, like, I didn't feel safe. And because when I don't feel safe, then I look at defending. And because I'm looking at defending, she feels my energy, and then she goes on the defense, and she's like, listen, if you can't see that that one thing is wrong, and if you have any problem with me telling you that I'm just trying to protect my damn kid, and you get mad about it, she's like, I'm like, I know she'll choose him over me for sure. I'm like, I have to like kind of fake that I like him, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I thought, what else am I fighting about? What else am I fighting about where I've told myself a story that's not true? Literally changed my marriage.
Wow.
At a high level.
Guys don't think like this.
Maybe.
This is crazy.
That's your story.
That's your story. It is my story, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm a guy. So, yeah. I know that now.
That's amazing.
So, what I want to tell you is that there's so much, this is like hours and hours of talk time. This is hours and hours of practice. And when I told Rick that day, I'm just amazing. That's who I am. That's why you should hang out with me. That's joking around. I think he actually bought lunch or something.
I did, didn't I?
And I tricked him into buying lunch. But I realized, like, this is how crucial this has actually been for me my entire life. Yeah. And how and why conversations for me have been easier because I've been practicing this. The first time I think was in 2001. And so what I just shared with you is years and years of practicing, years and years of like telling people, but I honestly didn't realize that it was something that was ingrained in me years ago. And it's the very reason why, to me, it's important to who you associate with and who you talk to and who you hang out with, because their thoughts become your thoughts. Their mode of actions become your mode of actions. Their way of thinking becomes your way of thinking. And if someone, honestly, I'm telling you, if someone's not operating from this point of view, it keeps you stuck, keeps you in stories. And honestly, once Rick had this conversation, and then I realized, oh my gosh, and then I've retrained on this, I thought, oh my gosh, I was missing stuff because I didn't realize I was corrupting it in my head because it had been so long since I read it again. I read it again, I've taught this a number of times, and every time I teach it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did this, I can solve this. And it's like every time I teach it today, like today, I've solved my own crucial conversation. So just real quick, I don't know what time it is. Oh, we got a little bit more time. This is good.
Okay, 9 minutes.
So again, I can't tell you all of the stuff. It's just impossible. It's 3 days of training. So, but what I can tell you right now is going to be pretty important. So get a pen and paper out, and we'll solve one of your crucial conversations. We'll get you started anyway. So think step one is find a crucial conversation that's currently in your life right now. So here's the deal. Write down something or someone that you know you need to have a conversation with, and here's what you think. I'll do that next week. I'll talk to them tomorrow. Or when I talk to them, they better freaking get this already done. Right? These are the thoughts that you have. So write down that situation. Again, as I'm telling you, stuff I'm telling you, like this stuff, the book doesn't tell you this necessarily. Step two, write down your story. Just try to capture it in its essence of, it's a story about this. What's the problem? Write down what's the result you're looking for. What are you really looking for? And I say result, so this is yours. What's your result? What's the result they are looking for? What do they want? And then, what's their story? And I just put they, like the other person. What is? Instead of putting that. What do you think their story is? What would you have to believe about them? When you have this conversation, what would you have to believe or know about them in order for you to be totally at peace of having this conversation and saying anything? And here's what I'm getting at. What makes you safe? What would make you safe just to walk in and say, hey, I really want to talk to you about this? What would you have to know?
Can you see the last part of that question again?
Now we're moving on. What would you have to know or believe about that person in order to just walk in and have a conversation and say, hey, because I don't want to talk to you about something for a while and I just haven't. What would you have to know?
So is it your story about them?
Nope.
No.
What would you have to believe about
what would you have to believe about
What would you have
them
to
as a
believe?
person.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
See, because here's the deal. Watch. Just raise your hand, just real fast. Raise your hand if you can think of a person you say, I hardly ever fight with this person, ever. You think of someone? Because you're safe with them.
Oh,
And if you couldn't think of anybody, because you create no safety. Who cares?
thought
If you
it
said,
was
I can't think of anybody. I can't think of anybody that like, well, because you create unsafety for people all the time. You're doing it. It's your fault. So you have to believe about them. So watch. Hear why this is important. She is a mom. I would have to believe she only pointed that out and found that so damn fast because she's just a mom and she loves that kid more than me. And she wants that kid protected. And I love that kid more than me. And I want him protected too. And that's the only reason why she said it. Otherwise, she would have just drove right by and wouldn't have said anything because she didn't really care about me that much to say hi. Like, honestly, like, that's my story. I'm like, if I could believe that, I could just walk in and go, is Lou okay? I was just hoping he was okay. I freaking, and I'm like, actually, it was like breathing heavy. I'm like, I ran up the hill. Is he okay? I was thinking about it. And she's like, yeah. Woo! And then, what's your strategy? Strategy. What has been your past strategy in having these conversations when they go wrong? What has been your past strategy, and does it work for you? Is it working? It ain't working. So you're the problem. And here's why you're the problem. My problem is you're just not providing safety. I'll just tell you one more story. In my church, I was meeting with this lady, and she got really mad at what I said. And like she was on my desk. She started pounding my desk, and she goes, "I can't believe that you." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, anybody out in the hallway is like hearing all this. Like she just pounded the desk. And I'm like, I know she falls in this category. And she hits the desk probably 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, because I thought she'd quit. I'm like, I can't believe you. I'm like, are you kidding me that this is happening? And so about the 5th or 6th time she did it, and I kid you not, like everything on my desk was shaking. And so I'm not exaggerating, like everything was like either a T-Rex is coming or a
mad woman.
And she hits my desk again, and I just put my hand on top of her hand, and I just said, "I'm so sorry. This isn't the outcome I was thinking I would get by saying that. I must have said it wrong." And she just broke down and sobbed. I passed it.
Wow.
When safety is restored, you put people back in their heart.
Huh.
And back at their heart, because they fall in this category, they'll do anything for you. They're freaking good people. They're all good Samaritans. They'll give you everything you got, everything they got, so you can be healed. And she just cried, and she's like, "I can't believe you just did that. I'm so sorry. I feel so embarrassed." I'm like, "You don't feel embarrassed." I said something that made you unsafe, and I don't really know what I said. Can you help me understand what you thought I said? Because what I said, I just don't know how it would have done that. True story. Like, it was amazing.
Wow.
So your strategy. So your strategy isn't working. So I'm going to give you 1 point of strategy. Here's 1 pro tip on how to do this. There's what's called contrasting statements. 2 minutes. Contrasting statements. Contrasting statements keep people safe. I promise I could have any conversation with Rick. Promise you. Just by using contrasting statements, I can make him feel safe. Here's what a contrasting statement is. You share with them what you want them to believe and not believe. I told this to Heidi. So it sounds something like this. Rick, I need to have a conversation with you, and I'm pretty nervous about having it because it's a really big deal for me. It's high stakes. And it's high stakes because I don't want to lose your friendship as a result of it. And it's high stakes because, and what I feel is happening for me is so emotional that I may say something, that I just may blurt something out. So here's the thing. If I just blurt something out and say something, please don't believe that I'm mad. I'm not. I'm just scared. Please don't believe that I hate you. I don't hate you. I'm just scared. Please don't believe that I think that you're an idiot because you did this, because I don't think you're an idiot, because you do so many things right. So don't believe that. Here's what I want you to believe. The reason why I'm having this conversation is because I do love you. And the reason why I'm having this conversation is because I think if you knew this, you would want to know this, and because it would change how you're doing things. And because and I want you to succeed, and I want us to have a long-lasting relationship. And so when anything happens, that we can always talk about it. So, as I share with you my thoughts and feelings today, if you believe anything outside of what I said, I've either misspoke it or you have misunderstood it. So what I'd like, the second you feel that I'm out of these bounds, stop me. Ask me a question, just say, what did you mean? You don't have to be offended by it, because you shouldn't be offended by anything I'm gonna say to you.
Perfect.
So,
Then you go.
and then I begin. He can't do it. I just bound him
Yeah.
with these two beliefs. I took it all away from him. He can't do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You can't do it, Rick. Rick, you can't be mad, buddy.
Right.
You're misunderstanding me. No, because I know, Rick. I know you're this guy.
Yeah.
And you can't be mad. It's impossible.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Here this is. And they're like, oh my gosh. And that's what I'm telling you. I've had that conversation with that guy, the conversation with the lady, the conversation with my wife. I have these all the time, and
Structured.
it's structured. And I'm amazing at it because I've done it for 17 years.
I love it.
And you can be too, and I promise. I had someone say, how can you change my business? How can you really get me more deals in the door? What are you really gonna do for me? I'm like, this crap. I guarantee you that's 10 more
Yeah.
deals a year, period. If I teach you really how to do it, that crap is 10 more deals a year, period. And I'm just skimming the surface with you. Can you think of any deal where you lost it? And had you known this, you think, just like by a show of hands, like had you known this by a show of hands, do you think it would have saved the deal?
Without question.
Oh my gosh.
That's why. When I say that to people, they're like, it's impossible. I'm like, I know. For everybody else, this is my superpower.
Yeah.
I also, my wife can find the one thing I do wrong, and that's my kryptonite. And I'm like, and that's it. So the study of that book and practicing and going through situations will change not only your life and your business, your personal life, your relationship with your kids. This has changed my kids. It's changed everything in my life because I've spent 17 years trying to master this technique, and it works. It freaking works. So thank you for letting me be here with you.
Thank you. You can see why I love having Louie come and participate with us. This is like the 4th time he's done this, and it's what's fascinating to me. It seems like I get way more the next time he does it. I absolutely love you being partners with us and doing what you do, and your awesome team, being here in the building with us and being our partners.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this today. This has been really good for me. What about you guys? This is a feel-good moment, right?
Oh my gosh.
I love this kind of
The whole book is on YouTube.
right? I mean, look, this is something seriously dive into. The more I hear Louie talk about it, the more I feel it, the better I get with it. Again, thank you so much. Thanks for coming to Base Camp today. We'll have him do another follow-up in the near future. Would you guys like that?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it. Dude, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is so cool.
Can't wait to erase this
Oh,
folder
yeah,
and get
yeah,
my
yeah.
phone
Go
to
ahead.
take a picture, please.
Oh, we got it recorded, so.
Later. Okay. Thank you. Very good. Matt Clark. I'll call Brian. See, you quoted him. He used to be a client of mine. Yeah, I ran a fitness business.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we go back. That was fun. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, oh, absolutely. Yes, you can go on to YouTube and pull it up and watch it. Oh, yeah.